When it comes to Alzheimer's risk, there is a lot of information out there. Some of it is about what increases your risk of getting Alzheimer's, and some of it is about what decreases your risk. In fact, when you start exploring it, sometimes it can feel sometimes worrying, sometimes confusing, and sometimes overwhelming. At times, the information is even contradictory. And what I'd like to introduce to you today is a structure that helped me make sense of all this information. And at the end of it, I'm going to show you where it might be helpful for you to focus. Hi, welcome to SMOL, Saving My Own Life. My name is Dr. Anna and I'm a clinical psychologist. The framework that I'd like to show to you today was one that I first learned when I was studying for a doctorate in clinical psychology many years ago. And I remember really liking it at the time because I found it so simple, and it's a really good way to organise your thoughts. And I thought it might be beneficial to my clients. I'm hoping, the aim of today is that I'm hoping it's beneficial for you too, in that it kind of, because there's 4 boxes I'm going to show you, it kind of can put the things that you're concerned about into different boxes. So there's the ones that you can't do anything about, and there's the ones that you can act on. So hopefully what I mean by that will all become clear as I draw this grid. Okay, so let's draw the grid. We draw it like this. It's a bit rough and ready, but as long as you understand the basic principle. So it's 1 square like that, a line here, and a line here. And at the top here, we've got the word risk, because this column is going to be about your risk factors. And then we've got the word protective, because this column is going to be about protective factors against Alzheimer's. So this is against things that are protective against Alzheimer's, and this is things that makes the risk more likely. Now, let's look at the rows across here. So the first row are, sorry, I have to move it a little bit, non-modifiable. Haven't really left myself room to write it, but I can't move the page again. Okay, so non-modifiable, things that you can't change. And then the bottom row is modifiable, things that you can change. Okay, hopefully you'll understand it more as I go through. So I'm going to number them. So this is quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, and quad 4. Right, so one of the first risk factors that is age, biological age. So we're going to put the word age. So as you get older, your risk for Alzheimer's increases. So that's quite straightforward, isn't it? And then there's your family history. So if you have Alzheimer's in your family, that's considered a risk factor. It's non-modifiable because there's nothing you can do about it. And as you can imagine, the more of a family history you have, the more increased your risk is. So for example, if you have 1 relative versus if you have 2 relatives, 3, and so on, the more the risk is. And also the closer they are to you, the more the risk increases. But let's not to worry about that. This is just the facts. Okay. Another one is your genes. And there are particular genes that increase the risk of Alzheimer's, and you can test to see whether or not you carry that gene, and that is something that is your choice, obviously, but some people prefer not to know. That's very much a personal decision, isn't it? Okay, and the next one is being female. Just that Alzheimer's occurs more often in women than it does men. And remember, this isn't like every single non-modifiable risk factor. This is just to get you a flavour of risk versus protective factors, and to make my point about which quad I think is the best one to focus on, in my opinion. Okay, so the next quad we're going to look at is the second one, and that is things that protect you from Alzheimer's, but they're non-modifiable. So what that means is that it's too late to do anything about these. These are just things that happen to you earlier in life. So don't worry, we've got 2 quads to go. Okay, so the main thing that protects you from Alzheimer's, or one of them, it's called your cognitive reserve. And it's literally the connections in your brain and the strength of the connections. So the more positive educational experiences you've had as a child, the stronger your cognitive reserve. So that could be things like early life education, so if you didn't have any schooling at all, your cognitive reserve might be lower. I mean, obviously you can learn outside of school, but you get the general impression. And then if you're bilingual, then you would have a higher level of cognitive reserve. If you can play a musical instrument, so these are all things that build up the strength of the neural connections in your brain. Another one I want to put on there is, and it can go on both sides really, it's to do with trauma. So I'm going to put it here. So the less trauma you've had, and I'm going to write the word ACEs, don't be put off by that. So it's adverse childhood events. And trauma is connected to probably every type of disease, at least a lot of diseases, let's put it that way. An awful lot. It increases your risk of disease. So the lower the number of adverse childhood events you have, traumatic things that happened, the more protective it is for you. And equally over here, the higher the ACEs, the more sort of trauma you had when you were a child, the higher the risk. And because this is non-modifiable, there's nothing you could do about it. It's what happened to you in childhood. Okay, so let's go again and look at risk factors that are modifiable. Okay, so the first one I have is obesity. And these will be familiar really, because they're risk factors for other types of diseases too. And then we've got Metabolic, I'm going to say metabolic factors. And that is things like insulin resistance, and if you don't know what some of these medical terms mean, no matter, it's all going to get much more simple when we've come to the final quadrant here. So I've got diabetes in there as well. Diabetes. Okay, I've never needed to spell that. What's that? With an I there. And we have, I'm going to put depression, isolation, and I'm going to put stress. Stress is another one that is modifiable. So these are all medical conditions really, or all things that you can change because they're modifiable. But they're all things, if you think of it this way, they're all things that mightn't make you feel very good because they're all about increasing your risk. So this increases your risk and this brings it down. It's like saying this is happy, bing, and this is sad. Oh no, the other way around. This is sad. You can tell this was done without an edit, can't you? Now the pictures aren't very good. And this is protective, so this is happy. Okay, terrible drawings. I'm going to do it again. Bum, 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 bum. How about that? And we can just ignore that scribble. Right, okay, so last quadrant. Things that we can do that are modifiable that decrease my risk of getting this disease. Okay, so I'm going to put nutrition and hydration. Now obviously that means quality food, quality nutrients, and quality water, and quality liquids, okay? And then I'm going to put exercise and movement. So the amount you move your body, resistance training, cardio, all that, strength training. Another one is good sleep, good quality sleep. And this is evidence-based, I'm not just making this up. Another one is social engagement. And connection. And another one is purpose. So this is like the quality of what you do with your time, how you think of your time. And what I want to ask you now is how you feel in relation to these quadrants, in relation to hearing there's nothing you can do about these ones because they've already happened, right? Or it's about other people in your life. And then this one is a lot of medical things as well that, and then this one, which is about positive things that you can do something about. So that is why I want to highlight this one, right? And then if you haven't noticed already, I want to draw your attention to something, which is that these, just as these two are related, these two, they're kind of opposite. So obesity is modified by nutrition, hydration, exercise, movement, quality sleep, even these two as well. So it's directly modified by that. Metabolic issues like insulin resistance, diabetes also relate to nutrition, hydration, exercise, movement, quality sleep. Okay, so I'm going to put these arrows actually the both ways because it relates back and forth. And then depression, isolation, connects to social engagement and purpose. And the same with the last one, in that stress can relate to potentially all of those. Like if you eat well, you move and do exercise, you get good sleep, you have friends and you have something meaningful to do, it's possible that you're less stressed. So that is why I believe we should focus on this area. Okay, before we completely leave the grid, I've thought about it a little bit longer, and I just want to show you these couple of things before we move on and make the conclusion. First one is that, yeah, I know this needs an E here. No, there. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, diabetes. You can look it up how to spell it. I obviously don't know. And then the other thing that I want to say is really important is this age here and genes. So when I first learnt this model 20 odd years ago, plus probably, these were very fixed in this quadrant. So in terms of them being non-modifiable, you can't change your age and you can't change your genes. But now that isn't necessarily the case. And I don't want to go into it too much, but I just want to say that we have our chronological age and we have our biological age. And they obviously can be different. And then with genes, we have epigenetics. And this is something that I'd like to do a video on. And it just means that we're no longer at the complete mercy of our genes as we used to believe. So it makes these two, and both these things makes these two more positive as well. So I just wanted to say that. Okay. So what we can see from doing this framework is that Alzheimer's isn't just something that happens to you when you're older. It's something that has a lifelong trajectory. And if we focus on quadrant 4, which is all about doing things and going into action, we can actually do something about it today. We can do something about our risk in terms of building our health. And that is why I like this grid, because it kind of separates things out and shows you where you can focus and where you can empower yourself to do something about it if you do have a risk. And the question becomes, instead of how can I avoid Alzheimer's, how can I avoid this kind of disease, you can start to think, how can I build health? So in a way, you ask yourself a better quality question, a question that makes you feel better about what you're doing every day with your health. It's not a fear-based question, is it? So this is why I like this grid. I'm hoping that it makes sense to you. Let me know in the comments what you think. I hope it was helpful. And if it resonated with you, this way of thinking, then I'm building something around this approach, and you can find some information on it in the description below. Please like, subscribe, share if you wish to. It would help the channel a lot, in that I believe that together we can do something about this. Okay, bye bye.